Hello, everyone. This is Tammy Fisher, and I'm within the doll world. And today I'm with my lovely co-host, Miss Georgette Taylor. Hello, Miss Georgette.
Everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
And our special guest today is Miss Patricia Coleman
Mhm.
Cobb. She is a multimedia artist, and I've been following her for years on Facebook, and I feel like she's just part of my family. So I'm really excited to have her here. So thank you, Patricia, for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
So part of
Excited.
those of you who are following or have been following Patricia might be wondering why we reached out to her at this point in her career, because she was exclusively doing dolls and now she's doing mixed
Mixed.
media. So
Yes.
part of what this is what is a doll and how our doll
Mhm.
journeys take us to other places. So we're going to start the interview, Patricia, with that first question. Tell us about your doll journey.
Well, I started doing dolls many, many years ago, and it was not something that I prepared for. It was something that I fell into, basically. I had no idea that there was even an industry for dolls, and it sort of happened overnight. I had had two babies in diapers at the same time. So I was up late at night, 12 midnight, it probably was later than that, and folding diapers and just tossing them into the basket and in the laundry basket. And when I looked down, it sort of looked like a face, the way they were all crumbled up. And I thought, oh, okay. Picked one up and started playing with the diaper, and of course that probably meant that I was sleep deprived. But the next day I got up because I always like to sew. I got up and just sewed this little face together that I had seen in the laundry basket with all of these diapers, and I sewed it. I didn't have a pattern or anything. I just kind of sewed it and squished it all up, and that was the end of it. I set it up on my on the counter in my house, and a couple of days later, a girlfriend came by and she said, "Oh my God, I love this! I have to have it!" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she started explaining about black dolls and that there was a market for it. And I was like, what do you, all I knew was Barbie from when I was a little girl. So she said, you have to do this doll show. And it was the doll show in Philadelphia
Okay.
at the time. That was the largest doll show. And I said, okay. I said, all I have is this one, this one piece. So I called up the doll show and I spoke to Barbara Whiteman, and she was all excited.
Mhm.
Oh, come! And so I said, okay. So that was about the doll show was going to be about 6 weeks later. So I sat down and I sewed about 10 or 11 dolls, and I went to the show and sold all of my dolls. So that was how it happened. There was no prep or anything for it.
Wow.
And then after that, of course, it was on then.
Definitely. That's
And
a cool
I
So
just,
entrance.
did they have faces and
pardon
yeah?
me?
Did they have faces and bodies?
No,
Did they have
actually,
faces and
they
bodies, or were
didn't
they just
have eyes. They didn't have eyes. It was just sort of, it was a cloth doll, all cloth. And the face, all I had was embroidered lips on there. But the way that I
oh,
had
okay.
scrunched up the fabric, it gave them all of these different expressions.
Okay.
And I went there, and of course,
Nice.
everybody was just so kind and so nice. And um, that just got me started. I was like, okay, when is the next show? So
Sell some
that's
more of
how I
these things.
started it.
Very cool. Very
Wow.
cool.
That's pretty cool.
And then, so by the
Yeah.
time I met you, you were doing the doll, full body dolls. Those are the dolls that I saw. There were larger
Oh,
dolls with, legs and
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's
That wasn't until about a few years later that I
okay.
started to do that.
Mhm.
It
Okay.
just kind of evolved. Of course, each time you do a piece, you see something that you could put into the next piece, and it just grows from there.
It
It
makes sense.
evolves.
It makes sense.
Mhm.
So you have gone from the little diaper dolls to the dolls to now you're making huge pieces.
Yes.
And
Yes.
those pieces still remind me, anyway. I don't know if you're feeling the same way. They still remind me of dolls. They look like another form of a doll.
Yes. Yes. And that's, I guess, that's how it evolves. It's like they grow up from a little kid, little baby doll, and it grows and it continues to grow, and now it's grown into this whole mixed media um, outlet that I never even thought about again. And it's also, with me, it's not something that I go into preparing for. It just happens, and it'll happen overnight, just
Mm.
just in an instant. And I'll put something down and I say, okay, I'm going to do something different. But it really all connects to that doll, to that first doll.
Mm-hmm. That makes
Hmm.
sense.
Hmm.
Because there's always, like I said, there's always the doll
Yeah.
in the
Yes.
piece.
Yes.
So
Right.
so
Right.
tell us
That's
about,
true.
okay, so now we gotten to the point that you're this doll artist. Tell us about this. I mean, this, sorry, you're an artist who's doing the multimedia pieces that started with dolls, because you're not, I don't, I think you're no longer considered like a doll artist, but that's part of your art.
It's part of
So
the journey.
yeah, it's part of that journey. So what is this? Tell us what this is like to go from being a doll artist to, you've got
Oh,
pieces sold all over the world and in galleries.
yeah, it's been so exciting. And I had never seen anything like what I'm doing now. So I didn't have anyone to kind of latch onto and to follow. And I just
Mhm.
one day thought, okay, I can't do this doll. People would ask me, oh, you have to do this doll again and again. And I was like, I can't. Once you've done it a couple of times, you lose it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to always have that spontaneity and excitement when you're doing something. And I couldn't get excited about doing something after I had done it 10 times. I can't do anything else with this. I have to move on to something else. And then once I did, I thought, I've got to take this doll and put this doll on canvas and put her on the wall. And then once
Oh.
Mm.
I did, and that was just something I did overnight. One day I did it. One day I put the doll down, the sewing machine, and I went to the store, bought some canvas, and that, and I just played with it until I got it exactly the way I wanted it. And that's kind of how it happened.
Mm.
Wow. So how large
That's pretty cool.
are the
That's
dolls?
pretty cool.
Sorry, I keep calling them dolls. How large are your pieces?
They range in size. The piece that I'm working on now is very large. It's probably the largest piece that I've done, and that's 30 by 40. And I always have them professionally
Wow.
framed, and you know that I mean I'm looking to
Wow.
do bigger pieces
Okay.
and just different kinds of pieces. I'm
Mhm.
experimenting. When I first started, I was only doing a canvas with the fabric and my sculpted face, and
Okay.
now I'm and painting different
Oh.
scenes with the pieces. So this is
Oh, that's
it's
very
very
nice.
exciting.
Yes.
It's very
Yes.
exciting.
Because you have this degree, this textile degree, and it's really interesting to see how you've taken that degree and rolled it
Yeah,
into art, and such
yeah.
beautiful art. And I mean, so this piece, I'm sitting here thinking about how large your most recent piece is. It's almost 3 feet by 4 feet.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yes, I've been
Wow.
working on this one for quite a few months now. Well, maybe about 2 months now.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm ready to go on. I have to always keep improving and getting bigger and or doing something different to keep the excitement going.
That's good.
My one one of my favorite artists is Tony Bennett. He always sings,
Mhm.
"How do you keep the music playing?" So
Yeah. You just got to keep being immersed in it. That's it,
gotta
right?
keep
And something will show up. You know?
Definitely.
Yeah. I I wanted to ask you about your faces and profiles and courage. I love that series that you have there. What kind of medium did you work in for those?
that I worked in
Is it clay? Is
clay.
it what is
That's
it? Those are beautiful.
thank you.
Beautiful.
Um, I'm trying to think. I started off doing when I was started off sculpting. I was sculpting in Super Sculpey, and then I went
Okay.
evolved and I went into sculpting with clay. I took a few sculpting classes from a really well-known sculptor here in Atlanta, Basil Watson, and I took some classes with him. And I just wanted to get the basics because then I wanted to take it and then put it into what I wanted to do with it. So I think those were
Mhm.
the faces and profile that I did. And then once I did them, once I do them,
Mhm.
I'll
Okay.
usually make a mold or something, and just so I can have a limited edition of that particular piece,
Okay. Very
and I'll pour
nice.
it in
Okay.
resin
All
or
right.
something.
Okay. Now, but the hair behind it, all the stuff that you create around the face, what is that made of? Is that paint? Is that like
Gosh,
cloth? Is it little,
I've done it in
cool.
cloth. I've done it in rags of strips of fabric that I've ripped apart
Mm,
and stiffened. I've done it in paint. I've done
nice.
it in wire. It's just at that moment,
Mm.
I'm like, oh, I'll see something. I want to do it in this.
That's very cool, the spontaneity. So
Yes.
one of the
That's
questions
great.
that we often ask on our shows is, especially of the artists, is about being able to make art in a way that you can sustain yourself. I mean, from a financial standpoint. So
Mhm.
when you are you able to make enough money from your art that you could make make a living from the pieces that you do?
I've been actually pretty lucky.
Okay.
So I've been pretty blessed. And
Oh,
so,
good.
yes, I have been able to at this point.
Okay.
At this
And
point, yeah.
that's important because we
Hmm.
have one of our goals is to be able to express to people that it's important to follow your passion. And so many artists are stifled. They end up doing something else because they don't
Yeah.
believe, or somebody turns them off of art. Go, that's not something real. Go and
Yeah.
get a hammer
Yeah.
and a nail because that's real work. So
Yes.
it's important for us to be able to
Yeah.
show that there are artists who are making money
Mhm.
doing art. So that's
Mhm.
important. And another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, we're interviewing you in February, and we're doing our first annual World of Black Doll celebration. And part of that celebration, actually, the reason that we ended up doing this celebration is I became involved in some conversations with people on LinkedIn, and they were talking about Black dolls, and there aren't that many, and the need for more. And so as a artist who started out as a Black doll, because I know that the dolls that I've seen from you have been Black. I don't know if all of your
Yes.
dolls. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
What leads you to making those Black dolls? Why is that important to be making Black dolls?
Now, people have asked that question of me. And also, people who are of other races, I'll say it that way, have asked that question.
Hmm. Yes.
And I'm it kind of makes me, why wouldn't I make black dolls? That's what I see in the morning when I get up and I look in the mirror. I see a black doll, you know, and so I just do mirror what I see. I'm mirroring what I see and what I know
Hmm.
best and what I know I can do. I project
Hmm.
I can project my feelings into that piece that I'm doing because I know exactly what that is about. So that's why
Mhm.
I do it.
Mhm.
I can't see doing anything else.
And I think that that's
Mhm.
important and powerful because
Yeah, very
we,
honest.
yeah, we, in whatever it is that we do, if we're doing something artistic, it tends to be an expression
Hmm.
of our experience in the world.
Right.
And as Black women, I don't know if this is true of all over the world, but I would say in America, there is a very common experience that we have that is
Mhm.
related to, that is based upon our skin and how the
Yes.
color of our skin and how
Yes.
people relate to the color of our skin, whether
Hmm.
they find it
Mhm.
beautiful or offensive, or, but when we walk in the room, we make a statement
Mhm.
because
Yes.
we walk in the room looking like we look.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think that that's part of
Yep.
the importance of Black dolls for me, because especially as children, and as we walk this world, this country, a
In
lot of
this
us
skin.
have, yeah, in this skin, we
Yes.
experience so
Mhm.
many almost otherworldly
Yes.
things that happen because
Yes.
other people walk in with their agenda and portray, I mean, they walk in with their agenda and they throw it on us. So we just walk in the room
Mhm.
and someone says,
Yes.
you
Oh,
know,
what's with your hair?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
your
let me
hair is
feel your hair.
your hair is a political statement.
Right.
Yeah, we're living through a time when they're passing legislation saying you have the right to wear your hair like that.
Yes. I
Nobody can
know.
fire
Isn't that
you.
crazy?
Nobody can
The
fire you
hair
because
that
you have that
grows
hair.
out of your head.
Why do I have a lizard?
Yes,
Right. That's
yes,
crazy.
yeah.
No,
It's
that's
not
Has to
like,
be
really crazy.
yeah,
approved.
yeah. It's not
Mhm.
like you did something. You gonna
Right.
put
What?
wire in your hair and make it stick out and be afro.
Right.
It's you didn't go put some special
And
chemical
just
in
think
it.
about that though. Just think about that statement. Yeah. But just
Yeah,
think about that statement, right? There's nobody else in the world, right, who has to have something legislated
Yes.
yeah.
about how
Our
they wear their hair.
bodies.
To
Yeah,
alter it. To
yeah,
alter it to make it fit.
yeah,
Hmm.
It's just when you think about it, it's weird.
yeah. And this is the second. This at least the second time. This is the second time that I know of in our history in this country that our hair has been legislated like this. Because there was a time when was it I can't remember which, I think it was the
That's so
1800s,
crazy.
but Black women, primarily in Louisiana, were told to wrap their
The
hair
cover, yes.
because their
Yes.
hair was so attractive
Right.
that it was
Right.
attracting men. It was like walking out with your clothes off. I mean, your hair is so attractive that it's,
You have to cover it.
yeah, yeah, so that it's not making men go crazy. You know, what is
Oh
that?
my goodness.
So yeah, I'm sorry I'm
Craziness.
going down this
Craziness.
this path, but it's just thinking about this month and the whole discussion about Black dolls and
Yes.
about how political our skin is, and then the whole need to make our children feel safe and important and valued, and that's where those dolls come in.
Yes. Yes. And that's why I guess it's also
Hmm.
important that you have dolls that don't are just not a black a doll that's been dipped in some brown paint, and then you don't have
Right.
all the other things, the hair and everything, to really accentuate that piece, to make a statement, to
Hmm.
make a
Yes,
statement like
it.
this is who
Right.
I am.
Right.
Mhm.
That's
Hmm.
true.
Because that whole thing is, yes, the
Hmm.
first thing that you see is my skin color, but
Hmm.
then the discussion starts to be about why is your nose shaped like that or your mouth, and so a
Yes.
lot of us experience negativity our because of the shape of our features in our face.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's important that those dolls have, I love the term that Allison Hernandez uses, uh, faithfully sculpted,
Yes.
faithfully
That
sculpted
I like that.
dolls.
I like
Yes,
that.
yes. So that they represent the way that we look. They're not
Right. Right.
a chocolate version of
The
someone
white doll.
else. Yeah,
Right. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I like your comment on why you do doll black dolls, because I think it was
yeah,
just so honest that that is why you do them, because they are really just an extension of who you see in the morning when you wake
hmm
up at the end
Exactly.
of the
I look in
day.
the
And
mirror
they
and I see a
have a,
black
a whole
doll.
different
You know?
air. There's a different attitude. There's a different way that when I'm doing the piece, the way I position it, it says something. Like if you just have your head to the side like that,
Mm.
I know what you're thinking.
Yes,
There's
ma'am.
a certain
It's
attitude.
nonverbal, right?
Right.
True. That's
That
true.
collective
But you really do
experience.
fabulous. You really do
Yes.
fabulous work. Yeah.
My mother could do it very easily.
It's
If
Mhm.
you were in a store or something, and
yeah.
you just do like
Yes.
that.
We go back to that when I asked you the question about, making black dolls. That's our experience, and it's important. And I thank
Yes.
you. I thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. It's important that I'm not going to say that other people can't make black dolls, because everybody can make a doll that looks
Everybody,
however
sure,
they look.
sure.
But there's something about living an experience and being able to express that experience that is so powerful. We had
Hmm.
France Brent Harris talk about some of the experiences he had with his dolls.
Mm,
He made a doll, and she had a little dime-sized Black Lives Matter uh, pendant on her,
hmm.
and a man assaulted his doll, knocks the doll
Oh,
to the ground. It's the power of the black doll. It's the power
wow.
of that experience.
Yes.
You
I
know,
used to, when I was doing the doll shows, and I've met so many people all around the country that actually have become friends. They call me and talk for an hour, um, just through that doll experience. They'll they'll come, and
Mm.
I usually try to stay back. I'm pretty quiet. I'll stay back and I watch them and I watch their expressions, and I can always tell in their
Mm.
expression what they're thinking about that doll. And they would always, after a while, they turn around and they'd say, "Are you the artist?" And I'd say, "Yes." And then we'd get into this whole long conversation about what that doll means to them. And they have their own story. That doll looks like my aunt so and
Hmm.
so. And then I'll get all of the
Hmm.
information about that person. They'll tell me the whole story. They'll go back to when they were a child. And we become very close knit friends through that doll experience.
mm-hmm,
And it's gone on for
Mm.
years. Just like when I met you, it's
mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, that's a friend, that's a girlfriend right there. And
That's my
it's
sister
just through the
friend.
art, through the
Yes,
dolls.
yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But
amazing.
I think that's a testament, right, to the culture and the history of a black doll, or of a doll in general, because I think they always bring up something from your childhood, or something that was, you know
Yes,
what I mean, that you can good about you
yes.
having this doll. It could have been when you were growing up and you just always wanted that doll and somebody got it. That's an experience, right? Or you went
Hmm.
to your grandma raising old dolls and then you connected, and that's the experience. So I think it's a testament to how dolls do help you to bond through a lot of
Yes.
your life. And I think that's why having Black dolls is so important, because it does matter. It does matter
I
in order
had
to create those conversations.
I a lot of my dolls also were not what you would call pretty dolls. And they were just real
Mm-hmm.
genuine people. And one of my most popular pieces, and people always, they still ask me, will you make that doll? Is the doll with the rollers in her hair, the pink rollers. And I called her the lady down the street. And it was the neighborhood I grew up
Mm,
in. That was what I knew.
that's
Those
right.
women would put their
There was
rollers
always
in
somebody out there with the rollers.
Mhm.
to go out. That was almost the part of the style. They put the rollers in and the house dress, and they'd come out on the porch or go to the corner store.
I was gonna say, see them in the store.
And and those were the women you didn't want to mess with.
They were the women you didn't want to mess with,
Because
and
don't
the
let them have to
women.
take their rollers out, because that's not gonna, yeah.
They were also. They were
That,
also the aunties. They were.
They were the aunties,
They,
and they
they,
were the most entertaining people ever.
and they kept you safe because they
They
were
did.
always. Those were the ladies who were always around.
They were.
They were always around.
So you couldn't sneak around with, because if you snuck around, they would always tell your mother.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I saw her with that boy.
that's the truth.
Or you're on your
Now
way
I'm telling on
home.
myself.
No, I know. And it's always,
It's okay. We always,
you know,
we
who
all
they
have,
know your
just so
mama.
you know. See how that one with the rollers, like, has such a distinctive, like, image for people,
Mm-hmm,
and such a
Yes.
connection.
mm-hmm.
One doll with rollers, people, still
Yes.
Yeah,
ask you
And
about it,
what the
yeah,
and then
stories
you're
that they
like,
would tell about
I've
that.
done so many more dolls already,
yeah. And it's even interesting with the
That's
three of
funny.
us. So I grew up in Colorado. I grew up in Denver, Colorado.
Oh,
So where did you grow up, Patricia?
Philadelphia.
Okay, and Georgette, you were in New York, and we all had that
Grew up in New
lady.
York. Hmm.
All of us had those ladies. It's just like that's what happened. That's what happened. We all knew that lady.
Yes, we
The
did.
fact that you created a doll like that says a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
It says a lot.
Yeah.
It says that that's a part of your experience that you just could not do. Like,
Yes.
you had to do it because it was so part
Yes.
of who you were and when you grew up. So that's so
And you
cool.
you should you
Really
should
cool.
be in the you should have been in the studio with me when I was doing her. I would be laughing to myself. I would think, people must think I'm crazy if they hear talking outside of this room and nobody else is in here but me. But I would just laugh. It would just conjure up all of these feelings
Mm-hmm.
in childhood.
Mm-hmm.
They were warm feelings
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
stories.
And that's part of that
That was
whole thing
beautiful.
with why Black dolls matter. I mean, all dolls matter
Yes.
to somebody for their thing. So that doll with the rollers in her hair, she is part of who we are. She is part of our legacy.
Yes.
And it's important
Yes.
that she is there because that's the same doll. We sit here and we laugh about it. And, there are those of us who we end up blessed financially and we move to other neighborhoods that are more mixed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe we don't have that lady there. But
I
you can
miss that
sit
lady.
down. I was going to say, you can sit down
I
with your
miss her.
kid and your grandkids and you can talk about this lady because this is
Yes.
my auntie, my grandma, my cousin. She is such a part of who I
Mhm.
am. And I can just take this doll and
Yes.
she's historically significant. That's
Yes.
part of why, for me,
Yeah.
Black dolls are so important. You know, not just, I mean, it's we need to have play dolls. Our children need to play with dolls that
Yes.
look like them. But we're also seeing these dolls that are, it's like people make quilts, and quilts tell all these stories about families in their times. These these small handmade dolls, and I don't mean small like as in little, but individual small artists making these handmade dolls. They're capturing and retelling our story. They are for future generations.
Yes.
And that's significant. And I'm happy, you know, to speak to you and be part of that, and to talk to you, and you know, we're here laughing about, you know, our collective experience and how important that is. Yeah.
And sometimes when you move out of that particular neighborhood and to different areas, you need sometimes walk past that doll and remind yourself of where you came from.
Yes, she needs to keep you in check.
When did you know, I'd like to know from you, I would like to know from you was that, when did you have your first showing, like your own private, have you ever had your own private show, and when did that happen?
I've had my own show. That was, let me see. That was when I first started doing the my wall pieces, my new wall pieces. And I'm trying to think about, that might have been about 3-4 years ago or so. With the wall pieces, the framed pieces. And I had my own show. It was at a gallery in New Jersey. And it turned out to be such a success. I was shocked. I was floored, actually.
Wow.
And it was my first showing with these pieces. And that's when I said, okay, well, you know, I guess I always think it's a higher something being that guides me. I never think that it's me coming up with these ideas, because I'm just me. You know. And so something guided me to these new pieces, and I did the show, and it was incredible. It was an incredible show. I did really well.
That's so cool.
Yes.
That's so wonderful to hear. It's wonderful to hear, really. Because, you know, I'm sure. I mean, you've been in the art world for a while with your pieces, and you do understand that artist, you know, that creates art, you know, that is still sometimes very hard for us to, you know, get pieces sold, get pieces shared, get pieces marketed. So I'm glad that happened for you. Yeah,
I am too.
I'm glad.
Yes.
And it's hard for female artists, you know, it's hard, you know. The competition is still
and art anywhere.
Wow, really?
Yeah. To get in the door. So many people. That's one of those things. It's like with writing. Everybody can write. Everybody can draw. You know, and that's, and I think that goes back to one of the questions I asked you earlier about being able to make a living on your art. Because a lot of people don't have that appreciation, because everybody can draw, you know. So it's wonderful.
I can't.
When we
I can't draw.
What's wrong with you, Georgette? What's wrong with you? You don't have hands?
I cannot draw, Tim.
Everybody can draw. But isn't that, I mean,
my children would beg to differ, okay? So you know that.
But as an artist, that's one of those things that you hear so often. You know, somebody sees something, like, because I'm also an artist, so you're at a show and people see your work, and they look at it and they see the price, and it's like,
I could do that.
I could do that. I could draw that. How you gonna charge somebody that kind of money for something? I can make one of them. Everybody can make one of them. You know, just get some pencils,
but you know
draw a circle.
It's I what I've come to believe, it's not so much what your technique or how good you are at it. It's about you being able to put that feeling into it and have that feeling come off of the canvas into someone else. It could be the ugliest face in the world. It could be a stick drawing. If that stick drawing can draw something out of people, that's where it is. That's the important part to me.
Yes.
Right.
And that's part of what happened with France when that man assaulted his doll, knocked it to the ground. It's not whether he liked it or not, but to be able to make some inanimate object sit at someplace, and for someone else to see that inanimate object and to feel rage.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a powerful piece.
Exactly.
You know, there are people, I mean, sometimes you see a piece of art and it brings you to tears. You know, to be able to invoke that, or like we're all
evoke a feeling.
Yeah, we're all laughing about the curler lady, to bring back that history. That's
where that's the important thing. Because I believe you can go to art school for, you know, your whole life, but if you just drawing something or painting something and it's not coming off of that canvas and evoking emotions to people, it's just a drawing.
Right.
Yes.
You know, that's all it is.
Right. That's true. So do you have anything new coming up that we can be looking forward to?
I have a piece that I've been working on now for a couple of months, and I'm hoping that I'll be finished by the end of the month. And it's really about Black women. Again, it's a nod to the Black female who really has brought us so far as getting people out to vote, but getting people out to register, running for office. And I just wanted to pay homage to them for doing that. And we've done it all of our lives, and our mothers and grandmothers have done it. But I just wanted to pay homage to these ladies. You know, we have a Black vice president now. We had a Black first lady. I mean, just so many, and all of the women, especially here in Georgia, we were working. I know there are so many women who are nameless.
Yes,
also.
we were working.
Oh my gosh, I worked those phones, and I can tell you, people were hanging up on me and don't call me anymore. But you had to persist to get people out to vote, and it was so important, and it made such a big difference here in Georgia. It really did.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see it because I really want to see something like that. That's powerful. That, like you said, that pays homage to the, you know, to women in general who are taking a stand and who are, you know, stepping up in their strength. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that piece. I know it's going to be phenomenal. So
thank you.
You know, it probably will be sold long before we'll think about buying it.
Once you complete
it, that out in the universe for you already.
I just finished a piece, called Lady Pearl, and I did that one in reference to, of course, everybody wore their pearls on Inauguration Day, and it's a beautiful piece that was all silk. She had a silk dress on, and the whole silk dress was pearl beaded.
Oh, so that's beautiful.
That one's out. Nice. In fact, I think I'm going to have prints of that one done.
Very nice.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
And that's lovely too, because there's that whole thing with, there are those of us who adore, you know, certain artists from afar, because it's like we're not at a point in our lives where we can afford to purchase their, you know, the original piece, but to be able to purchase that print, you know, is so powerful. It's like you get to participate in that, you know, and that experience with that person. Yes. So thank you for making prints.
Yeah.
This has been so much fun. This is just fun. With COVID, I have one of my children has multiple chronic conditions. So I am not getting outside. I have been outside maybe, I don't know, since March, maybe 8 times. And the times that I've gone outside have been to take myself or this child to a doctor's appointment. So I don't think I've been out the house a dozen times. I think it's been closer to half a dozen times. And it's nice to be able to talk to people and to laugh and to share stories.
Yeah.
And COVID has been very important in this, I think, in what we are doing within the doll world in these interviews, because we had done some interviews, but we hadn't released the show. And I was talking to Georgette and I said, we need to release the show because people, they need to hear something. They need to be uplifted. And so it's interesting how that's weaving through this, and how it will be interesting to see the legacy of COVID and how it impacted people.
Now that we're talking about COVID, how really has that affected what you do as an artist, right? And showing your pieces, or has it affected you in any way in that way?
You know, this is the strange thing about that. Well, first of all, I'm used to working alone, so being alone didn't bother me, you know. But the strange thing about it is that I had my best year this past year since COVID has been out.
Wow.
And I don't know what, I don't know if it was because people are home in their houses and they're like, oh, I'd like to have something in this corner, or, you know, something that, you know, but it's been just an incredible year. Really, it's probably been my best year I've ever had.
Wow, that's
great.
So it's weird.
That's wonderful.
How are you defining best? Is that as in making money, or in making so many art pieces? What's best?
I have probably sold more pieces this past year, than I ever have.
Wow.
I also probably have had quiet time to think of new things to do. So I don't know if that also had contributed to it or not. But it's been a very phenomenal year for me, you know, this past year.
That's interesting. Okay.
That's great. Something good's coming out of this. Thank you, Patricia, for joining us on In the Doll World. This has been a wonderful, heartwarming interview. We've learned so much, and it's been nice, like sitting around at a friend's house and just sitting and chatting, and this has just been lovely. So thank you so much, and I hope that the people who are listening to this interview can appreciate it as much as we have.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been great. So where should people reach out to you if they want to know more about your art or know more about you? What's a good place for them to reach you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. It's under my name, Patricia Coleman Cobb.
Okay.
And also my website is www.patcobb.com.
Okay. That's great. Okay, so those of you who want to go and see more of her work, please check her out online. And Patricia, thank you again for joining us on In the Doll World.
Thank you so much. And thank you for making me feel comfortable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome, love.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
Thank you for being here with us.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.